All right, let's switch to Amar Reynolds, who committed to Illinois yesterday out of Vero Beach, Florida. If that sounds familiar, it's because last year Illinois went to Vero Beach and got Nate Gwynn. I always screw up that. Nate Gwynn, tight end, who's a freshman here on campus. But Amar Reynolds, another Florida defensive back. I made the lame Big Daddy joke, Joey, in my coach speak that Illinois and Florida defensive backs go together like lamb and tuna fish, or if you prefer, spaghetti and meatball. So what's your takeaway from this?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's not like they beat out a ton of – oh, good. It's not that they beat out a ton of high-end pros. Wasn't a big Power 5 recruiting win, but I think it's shown that Aaron Henry, Antonio Fernales – I know you covered it, not to open up the door on your coach speak, which is VIP content, but they know where to go in the state of Florida, which I think is important. That doesn't mean every guy they get out of Florida is going to be a stud, but they know where the hot pockets are in the state, where the maybe overlooked programs. Who was the 2023 kid that Aaron Henry said was at a school that traditionally remember we were in Florida for the bowl game. Goodness gracious, I'm drawing a blank. And he said this is a school that wasn't very good. Not a lot of people go through there. But he saw the kid and he was really good and kept it quiet. I just have to go back and look at that. But that's they know the layout of the state there and what works, and they also know what they're looking for. In Florida defensive backs, long, aggressive. I think we talked about it last time, or you and I have talked about it previously. A lot of the tape is pretty darn similar. Yeah. From one Florida defensive back to another in terms of personality.
Yeah, I've had to kind of go and learn my Florida geography here because Miami, Fort Lauderdale, everyone recruits it. That is SEC territory, AC. Everybody across the country is recruiting. There's so much talent in that area. But Illinois, under Lovie Smith, really found a lot of fruitful recruitments in the Tampa area. This staff really, the Space Coast is what you hear. And I had to look that up. It's kind of like between Jacksonville and Miami, a little bit in that Orlando area. They found a lot there. And I think that's what, the coach of, Amar Reynolds at Vero Beach was talking about. They kind of know where to pick their spots, maybe what's under looked in Florida a little bit. And, Aaron Henry's from inland, Immokalee, Florida, kind of a little bit more of a rural area. So I think he's got connections in that area. Now you add Antonio Fernales to it. But Amar Reynolds, man, like you put on the film and it looks like an Illinois defensive back, right? Like you said it, Joey, there are traits that this staff really focuses on. And with Amar Reynolds, it is length and it is physicality. He's a really good athlete too. But when that film has a lot of volume to it. But yeah, when you look at his film, it's a lot of great traits. He's long, he's athletic, but the place that really sticks out in what Lenny Jankowski, his head coach at Vero Beach, because Amar just transferred in this spring, but they're allowed 20 padded practice. Like the spring football in Florida is a big deal. They allow a lot of contact during that time. He just shows a ton of physicality in his tape. So I'm wondering if he's a nickel. I'm wondering if he's a corner. Seems like he'll be, a corner kind of nickel kind of guy, but the physical traits are there really quick. You'll see on this return that we're playing on our YouTube, there's quickness, there's speed. The guy's probably going to take a couple of years to develop. They got so many young defensive backs, but add him to the mix, man. Long, physical, athletic, ball skills. There. That's Illinois and Florida defensive backs there.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I was going through and looking. It was Jaheim Clark that Aaron Henry was talking to us about in Florida. He said, that's from my backyard. Can I read the quote if I could, really, or just a section of it? Being in my backyard, it was so easy. I was just trying to hide him because he's right up the road from a rival high school. Like, that's what, when we say they know the landscape, that was Aaron Henry on Jaheim Clark, by the way. Like, that's what we're talking about, where places, as you mentioned, the Space Coast, which is a new term for me, but like they know those areas and where to find guys, and they built those relationships. Brett Bielema, and that's how he got Aaron Henry. It's how he got Antonio Fernales. So there's like long relationships built in the state of Florida where coaches are comfortable, even though their guys might be going very far away from home. Like, they're comfortable with who they're going up there with. And these guys know what they're looking for, man. And like, you hate to keep repeating it, but it's very clear. And I don't know, like they all have a little bit different traits, but the fundamentals of what they're after, like Lovey had some measurables, if I'm remembering correctly. Like it seems like the staff has more, like they've got a lot of personality, and not really, I don't know, you call them measurables, but traits that seem like make or break points.
Lovey took guys under 6 foot. This staff really doesn't. Like they're going to take guys who are long. And the thing that stands out to me, Joey, is just the physicality. Ryan Walters talked a lot about pull the trigger. Like he wants guys who pull the trigger. That's what all these guys do on film. Like Jaheim Clark was probably 155 pounds as a high school junior. But you watch that film, he hits like he's a 220-pound linebacker. Like he's just fearless. He's like that mentality is what makes Devin Witherspoon great. I think it's what makes Taz Nicholson able to play beyond his measurables. And I think Tyler Strain showed a little bit of that as well. And Tyler Strain's kind of the one guy of that Lovey Smith class that's kind of lasted in the defensive backfield despite being undersized, just because I think of his mentality. So that's something they certainly are looking for. So they had one for the defensive back, Joey, but like it'll be interesting to see what else they add in the secondary because they're looking to add more for the defensive backs. They already have Vernon Woodward. They have Amar Reynolds. Ricky Knight, 4-star defensive back out of Florida, is going to announce his decision on July 1st. Florida State and Miami could be really tough to beat there. Kevin Levi, a teammate of Ricky Knight, really fast, one of the fastest prospects in the class of 2023 or 2024. It seems like Florida State's in a good spot there. The guy I'm really interested in is Dalen Platt. He visited Ole Miss here a couple weeks ago. Friendly name, Kenoto Hudson is recruiting him to Ole Miss, but Aaron Henry has made Dalen Platt a top target, and I'm interested to see if Illinois is able to close on him in the coming weeks. Chase Green, under-recruited guy, another one, Largo, which is not really recruited. In the Tampa area, we remember, of course, Largo, Bobby Roundtree was from there. I think he's under-recruited. I think he's a great pure playmaker. Not as many physical traits, but length is some of these other guys, but I think he's a really good free safety or nickel prospect. And then Xavier Lucas, who took 5 official visits this past couple weeks. He's a really good player. Visit Wisconsin, Iowa, Oregon State as well. Rutgers, I believe, was in there. So it seems like he's going to head to the Big Ten. Wisconsin, Iowa are obviously entrenched there, but I think Chase Green and Dalen Platt are the ones to watch there. And Illinois continues to push for Lucas and Knight.
Yeah, Dalen Platt's interesting because I talked with Kenoto Hudson before the draft about Devin Witherspoon. And much like Ryan Walters has a cell that he crafted or I guess added to at Illinois, Kenoto Hudson's not very bashful about the fact that he was in early. I mean, he was a lead recruiter.
Yeah, he's the one who recruited him. He's the one that's like, we got to get this kid. So
for Devin Witherspoon, and he wants to make sure his fingerprints are on that development story as well. And I'm sure that is also probably part of the pitch when you're looking at that. But yeah, those two, Dalen Platt, Chase Green, would be the likely one. Xavier Lucas is so interesting because I think you and I both find interest in the fact that no one's really talked to him. He's doing this thing, and then he's keeping pretty quiet. So I'm wondering how much hinges on where he's at and what his plans are. But I think you and I still expect a handful of Florida defensive backs to jump on board at some point over the course of the next month or so.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention here is look at this rivalry recruiting wise between Illinois and Wisconsin, right? Like, I guess Oklahoma you could mention too. Illinois with 3 straight wins over Oklahoma in recruiting. What a new day that'll be. But the Badgers early in this class had the upper hand in these head-to-head battles. And you think of last year, even when that staff was, under fire and, got fired, Paul Chris was fired. They were beating out Illinois in these battles, but Illinois crushes Wisconsin last year. But then Luke Fickell comes in, gives them some recruiting momentum. They land Grant Steck, 4-star tight end out of Illinois. Derek Jensen, in-state kid. You figured if Wisconsin offered, they'd be able to land him. So Derek Jensen, Wisconsin kid, goes to Wisconsin. Illinois loved Tymus Heiberger, edge prospect, linebacker prospect out of South Dakota. Wisconsin lands him. Raphael Dunn, a linebacker prospect. Wisconsin lands him. But Then Illinois flips Vernon Woodward from his Wisconsin commitment. They land Joe Barna. And Joey, we'll see if Illinois can, I don't want to say steal Darion Dupree, the 4-star running back out of Chicago Mount Carmel. But everyone's kind of considered Wisconsin the favorite coming into this month. I would agree with that coming into this month, but I didn't think it was close to a done deal. And it feels like this is dragging out a little bit. And I think Wisconsin's probably a little bit uncomfortable with that. I think Illinois has a lot to do with that, as well as Missouri. Darion Dupree just visited Missouri. So